Okay. Well, welcome back, Renette. This will call the meeting of the Citizen Review Board for February to order. We do have a quorum. I'm going to go first, okay, Ray? One thing that we learned last year was that in order to actually request positions to be hired for us from the city, we have to have a motion approved by the board. That being said, we are reaching for the stars this year and hoping that we get something. So I'll read to you the positions that we're requesting and what they do in order of preference. The first is a data analyst who would input complaint data into the system that is required to input them into, upload investigative documents, run reports to analyze data for quarterly, annual, and special reports, and assist with file management to maintain office integrity. The second would be a legal secretary 2, who would process and analyze CRB documents in response to FOIL requests, discovery demands, subpoenas, and documents to be provided to the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigation Office, which is the Attorney General. Work in conjunction with the Law Department to facilitate accurate and timely responses to FOIL, discovery demands, subpoena, and documents to be provided to the Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigation Office. Again, Attorney General. Assist with file management to maintain office integrity. 3 is a policy analyst, which would conduct research into Syracuse Police Department policies, compare those policies to other agency policies, legal opinions, etc. Assist with drafting policy recommendations on behalf of the CRB for quarterly, annual, and special reports. And we're not done. 4, community engagement specialist. Assist the board with community engagement to build community awareness of the functions of the CRB and improve community relations. Create programming and presentation, for example, what to do when interacting with police, to engage with the community and facilitate contact with local agencies to schedule activities. Last but certainly not least would be an investigator to help investigate complaints filed with the CRB against the Syracuse Police Department, assist with file management to maintain office integrity. If you remember correctly, we asked for 1 full-time and 2 part-time positions last year. For a variety of reasons, those positions were not approved. After that, I did, after listening to the counselors and their discussions of why those positions were not going to be approved, I realized that they have absolutely no idea what Renette does on a day-to-day basis. And at that point, Renette started keeping track of what she does on a day-to-day basis. And hopefully when we do the presentation to the council, we can talk about it, not just say, oh, SPD has 5 people doing investigations. We only have Renette and a private investigator. It seems that every department in the city is adding staff. We need to be able to do that. I think this year is going to be, in my opinion, the, I'll say it nicely, proverbial poop or get off the pot year. If you want this board to be successful, you have to be able to have the staff to do it. So that being said, I would entertain a motion to approve asking for these 5 positions, and then we can have discussion.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Joe. Second? Harry? Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was the list in preferential order of what the CRB wants to hire? And if so, why was the investigator the last one?
Right, I'll take that one.
Answer that. Because the last year they provided our outside private investigator with additional funding of $50,000. He has been able to catch up on some cases, and he still has that money moving forward. So the ideal is that if in fact they give us that same amount of money in this upcoming budget or more than what they previously gave, then we don't need the private investigator as much if we're still going to be able to give more cases to our, we don't need the full-time investigator as much if we're going to be able to still shoot him those cases. And because, as we know, our reports are very time consuming in terms of the data and the things that we need to be pulling together to give the community a better perspective as to what the CRB is doing, the type of cases that we see, and overall communicate the need for the CRB. That's the reason why we kind of push that again further up the list, opposed to the investigator, in hopes that we continue to get a good amount of money for the private investigator. And if we do that, we'll be able to still maintain where we are and actually move ahead if we still get a good amount of funding. So usually they give us $10,000 for that. So they gave us $50,000 from the ARPA money for that. So I intend to try to at least get him $20,000 this year. So at least they'll give him more, and then we can kind of work from there. But I do know that we need to start, the data analysis position will assist also with those FOIL requests. That was discussed in the other position. So we need that in conjunction with that. So that's the reason why that one was on a top or on a higher priority than the private, a full-time investigator at this time. And the only other issue is we're going to have to run into space as to where to put these positions. So that's an issue too. And if we were going to, try to have a space for somebody, the data analysis on the computer would be a primary target for a space right there in the office. So.
Okay, that makes sense.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of moving forward with the request to hire these positions, say aye.
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 Okay, anybody against? Okay, thank you. The other thing that I have is, it's time for Renette's evaluation. So, the board does need to approve the committee. I have asked Hatisha and May, and they have agreed to serve with me to, do Renette's evaluation. We would do that and also, either the mayor, who usually appoints the deputy mayor, and Joel Majuk as the chair of the Public Safety Committee, are the other two people on her review committee. So I would take a motion to approve the committee to do Renette's evaluation.
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, guys. Welcome back, Renette. Your turn.
Hi, thank you. As I stated, this is my first week back in the office from a 3-month maternity leave. The little one is doing well, but we are back. So for the month of December and January, Lori was gracious enough to come into the office during that period of time and go over cases, open up mail, and things of that nature. So from what I gathered, we had 9 new cases to come in the month of December. And then Lori, do you have the number for January?
Did I count that yesterday for you?
Nope, you counted December for me for the report.
Okay, well, keep talking and I'll count them. I've got the-
So since I've been back, we will start to draft the letters to acknowledge those complaints that were received. The Office of Professional Standards continued to send emails while I was out, providing me with cases that were filed directly with them. So we need to acknowledge those cases.
4. I'm sorry, 4 in January. Yep.
Okay. So far we have 4 new cases in the month of January. And so that brings our total for 2021 to 50 cases. Typically we have 100 cases a year. So we were shy 50 cases, but not shy of work. Let's just put it that way. So we will move forward with generating those while I was out, Virgil, our private investigator, was continuing to investigate cases, and he gave me eight cases that you guys will get next month to review. I could have sent them to you, yes, when I came back on Monday, but I just didn't feel like that was fair to send you 8 cases on Monday for a review by Thursday. So
Thank you.
we'll have we'll have more cases in the month of March to review, but we do have those. While I was out, ops provided us with 5 cases. So we will look at those 5 cases that the Office of Professional Standards investigated for us, and we will be sharing those with you as well. Some of those, the 18-month deadline has already expired and others have not. Again, just as a background, sometimes complainants file complaints after the 18-month deadline has already expired, but we still have to investigate those. We still have to look at those for policy and training recommendations and to see whether or not there should be any sort of like criminal charges alleged against the officer, where we refer them to the DA's office, even though it's after the 18 months. So we will still look at those. Many of those are cases that Virgil also investigated, in which they were old cases. One of his cases that he investigated was from 2017. So again, the 18-month deadline is expired, but we still have to do our due diligence as a board as it relates to that. So don't be alarmed when you start to see those. An update: we have received several people interested in doing internships with our office. We received 3 people so far. We interviewed 2 yesterday. Myself, Lori and myself interviewed them. One of them, we already sent the background. We sent the background check to both of them, and one of them has returned them. So we're looking to have 2 interns again from Professor Reether's political science class to join us. They are starting to prepare for the budget already. So we will make it our priority to meet with the council, the Public Safety Committee, to discuss the upcoming positions that we are looking for, to answer any questions that they may have as it relates to those positions, in hopes that we get a good outcome at the time of our budget hearing and that they are not surprised by our request. And thoughts that we will be successful this year. We know that the numbers that we are looking to hire would make our current office space crammed, to say the least, but it is necessary for us to do what we need to do, and we'll have to figure it out. If we are blessed enough, I don't want to say lucky, because I don't think luck think our luck for the CRB is not the right word to use. So I hope we are blessed enough that we get these positions so that we can continue to do the work that we feel the legislation has called us to do. So I'll be back sending you guys emails about everything. If you did not respond to the email about the NACO training that is available, that the board will pay $15. It's $15 per person to attend those trainings, and they are virtual. But if you have not responded to my email about your attendance, please do so, because the training is going to be on the 7th. And it's about an hour and a half worth of training. So I did have responses from Hatisha, Cliff, and Lori. But if anybody else wants to, then we will. And Richard, I'll send it out to you so that you can review it and see whether or not you want to attend as well.
Okay, great. You have my email?
I will get it from Lori. I think it's on your resume though.
Yeah, should be.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I will.
Okay, now, do we need to register individually for that?
No, I will
Or you'll
take
do
care of it and then pay the city, use the city credit card to pay for the
Okay.
training. Okay.
Okay, because
So
that was going to be my question, because I had went on and tried to register, but I saw that $20 fee and I was like, wait a minute, whoa, I
no,
didn't know.
we will take care of paying for that. just let me know that you want to attend.
I want to attend, so I'll let you know
So
right
I
now.
will do that, and then you guys will then get a confirmation because it asks me to provide your email address. So you'll get a confirmation what you're registered, and then you'll just click that link in order to attend that.
Okay.
I think that was all that I needed to update everyone about. Oh, I do have to update you about, I believe you know that Roberto is no longer with us. So therefore we will be hiring a new legal secretary um, in the office. Hopefully we'll have a hiring by March the 1st, that first week in March. Hopefully that's when they'll be able to start, and we'll be moving forward with that. I think that is about it. We needed, yeah. If I think of something else.
Okay.
Oh, briefly, sorry. All the
Okay.
committee meetings that we previously were not attending, such as the police liaison committee meetings, we'll restart doing those again. I'll let them know. Also, the meetings that I was doing with the chief once a month, we will begin to do that again. And also the meetings with Counselor Majoke, we'll begin to do those again on a monthly basis. So everything that we previously were doing, we're going to try to start resuming the first in March, no later than March. Some of them may be able to occur later, well, sooner than that. And while I was out, I did attend the police, I'm drawing a blank, the police review commission that I'm on through the city. That's part of the executive order. I did continue to attend those meetings because they were technically after work hours. So I continued to meet with them every month. I was sending you guys updates as they were coming to us. So just continue to go to that portal to see how the city is doing as it relates to police reform. So continue to look there, and I'll share that link out again just in case it got lost in the massive emails, so you can follow up with those issues related to the executive order and police reform.
Okay, thanks for that. The one thing that I forgot, Renette had forwarded an email to me yesterday or the day before, from a gentleman who is pursuing his doctorate, in something along the lines of CRBs. And what he's doing is a study on citizen review boards and their members and how they're formed. I did respond to him that I was interested in participating. It was like, I believe that the email came in the middle of January, but I couldn't get Renette's email, so it was one of those weird things. But so I did respond, and I told him I would be interested if it wasn't too late, and to please let me know if it wasn't too late so that I could get the information out to you guys in case anybody else wanted to participate. He stressed in his email that everything would be anonymous, including what citizen review board we were from. And so people could speak honestly and not have their name attributed to things that they may not want their name attributed to. So as soon as I hear back from him, either way, I'll let you guys know.
Can I don't think I need a motion, but correct me if I'm wrong, Hatisha. Since Roberto is out, I don't think I need a motion to hire again a new legal secretary one, do I?
I believe because it's a new change, you may need it. I'm
Because
not.
it's not a change. That was his position title, but it's going to be a new person.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, no, you don't.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure. And if we in fact need a resolution as it relates to those positions that everyone voted upon, then I will let you guys know, and I'll just circulate it and see how I can do some sort of electronic signature or something. But if not, I usually the meeting minutes suffice as long as we put in there that the motion was made and carried and so forth and so on. But in case we do, just look out for that in your email.
Does it go to HR or does it go to Tim?
It goes to that would go to budget, so that then when they put all the information together and they give the packet to the council, they can see that the minutes reflect that the board was okay with hiring those positions.
Okay.
The only other thing, if you guys had questions, was about that new office with the AG's office. Did anybody have questions about that and where it came from? Anybody got questions? If not, I won't waste any time. Okay. So I'll give you a background anyways, but so the AG's office decided to create an office that makes the department self-report anytime an officer has 5 or more complaints in the past 2 years, in a 2-year period. So that is something new that happened in 2020 under Executive Order 75 as it relates to police reform. So that is going to create additional work for us to do. And because we have to self-report, they would have to include the CRB records when the law department does provide that to the AG's office. And we don't know how many cases that could be and how far back, if in fact, once they really get rolling, it might be. We had previously had a FOIL request for all CRB cases to be provided. So with that being said, we still need that person to be able to scan those documents in, so those are readily available as well. We keep track of all of our responses to FOIL requests, so we need to make sure we maintain that as well, so that we're not duplicating work in the long run, which then creates more of an issue when you only have 2 people full-time in the office.
I do have 2 questions on that, Ray.
Yes.
Is it 5 complaints in a given period of time or ever?
5 or more complaints in a 2-year period.
Year. Okay, and does that include complaints of other police officers or just complaints from the community?
So that includes all complaints, any complaint that is received.
Okay.
It is it's not kind of with those it's like body worn camera issues, yes. It's not kind of those day-to-day things like with personal leave and stuff like that, but those other things, but they don't really kind of give them a category because they don't want to put themselves in a box really.
Mhm.
And it's still kind of being developed. But it is mandatory reporting. And it would be anything that had to do with misconduct, corruption, fraud, or anything like that. And it can be internal complaints and external complaints.
Okay.
And it doesn't say that the complaint had to be sustained. So you see what I'm saying? So it's anything that would have been filed, where sometimes we were having, when 50A was in place, we had, it was only cases that were sustained. And remember, there was the decision that happened that said that they only had to provide responses for sustained cases only. This, it kind of puts it in a nutshell, in a loop, in hopes that they kind of catch those early warning triggers that the system should have caught, but maybe didn't. And they'll continue to, work on that. So.
Can I ask something? Did the police departments agree to that?
No, the attorney general, the attorney
So
general
it's-
created. They don't need buy-in. They can say, hey, this is what we are now doing. And so and the police departments just have to comply.
Right.
And they got a lot of frequent flyers too. So let's
Well, I guess,
let's go ahead and get all of those reports right on over there to the AG's office right away.
I'm thinking I'm on Richard's point though. I mean, if I'm a police chief, and I'm not even going to say a Syracuse police chief, I'm just like, the town of DeWitt chief of police. They're not going to know if I send them the names or not.
So if we look, I'll send you a copy of the executive order that was created, and then it'll give you a little bit more information, but it is self-reporting. So they're gonna, they're hoping that the department is honest about the fact that this particular officer has had 5 or more complaints in a 2-year period, because guess what? If they don't, remember those pattern and practice lawsuits and stuff like
Right.
that occur, this will be another reason why they would be investigating a particular department. If in
Well-
fact they find out on the back end
Mhm.
after creating this office and they're not complying.
So the
Well, I
CRB
think
is
that-
like the oversight? We're like
Say
the
that
oversight
again?
committee for that?
Right, are we a subcommittee of oversight? I mean, that's, I guess that's
Would be.
what I was gonna say is like, should we keep in the back of our mind some thought on whether it's annually, semi-annually, whatever, reviewing complaints of against officers that have more than one, and then request to see what the
So
police
we
department
do
has
keep-
reported. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So we do keep a report that basically has those frequent flyers.
Right.
And so we keep complaints, we keep a tally, and this is going to be a new change to that report because we typically only keep the report where when people have 3 or more complaints, they start going on that list. And
Mhm.
then there's another part of the list that is when they start having complaints that are sustained. So now
Okay.
we're going to have to figure out where the cross is because some of those officers that kind of were on a different part of the list may need to be moved up. And that's what takes a little bit longer in terms of the data collection is making sure that we put that information on all these previous reports that were created so that then we can look back, as you said, and say, hey, we've seen at least 3 complaints on this particular officer in a 1-year period. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Let's, again, send a little notation to the chief and say, hey, chief, just so just in case, and we've
Mhm.
done that before. Like, this is the 5th complaint about demeanor, that we
Right.
have had on this particular officer. So when we look back at those kind of things, I think that if we do that and we CC the law department, then I think that
Mhm.
that will kind of maybe help jog a few memories,
Mhm.
and say per executive order, such and such, that kind of thing. But again, that's why it's important to have other people in the office because now you're relying on my brain to make sure
Mhm.
we do that, and
Well, I do have faith in our chief that he would accurately report, but who knows how long he's going to be around, and just in general, I think that's a very interesting concept. But
well,
Also
yeah,
send
and
a
you have
message.
to have the necessary processes in place in order to do that and do it timely. If not,
Mhm.
then that's the issue. Is how
Right.
much now time is it to create this system to make sure that we respond? And then do you
Right.
have enough staff in order to do that and do it efficiently where it doesn't seem like you're not doing a thorough investigation, one, into the complaint. And then 2, that you're not providing all the necessary documents. And that would mean our documents as well.
Mhm. Okay.
And we're hoping to be on top of our cases enough that we are able to provide them with concluded cases from those complaints and not cases that we're still waiting to be investigated.
Mhm.
Because then that's when I wonder, like, who's going to circle back?
Right.
Are we then going to say, hey, that case you asked about, we are now done with it, and here's what our findings were, that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So,
Okay.
I think it's
Anybody
a
have
good
anything
thing.
else, or?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that they're doing that. Um, and it'll send a message to those officers on the force as well, to know that, they're on that radar as far as
Mhm.
their conduct, becoming a pattern and what they're doing as far as the community is concerned, and it sends a message to the community as well, that the attorney general is stepping up in that regard, so she can
Mhm.
identify those officers, and possibly get those officers off the force who are constantly, doing things that they're not supposed to. You
Mhm.
know, so I think it's a good thing.
and the last update I'll provide, and I'll stop talking, is how the AG's office was currently investigating our department.
Mhm.
anyways, as it relates to policing.
Right.
I was advised that we have provided about 500,000 plus documents to them. That's including CRB documents to the AG's office that they were requesting. So far, we have not received a decision as to their review of said documents and any plans to do anything else as of right now. But we never know when they're going to request some more documents. So that is another part that data analysis and that legal secretary too will assist us with, is continuing to make sure that we're ready to provide those, because we had to end up buying a flash drive in order to put those documents on to provide to the law department. So it is time consuming, and we know many of our documents were not scanned in. And so we have to scan those in and make those digital.
Correct.
So,
Okay, well, we actually have someone from the community here. Would you like to speak or ask any questions or?
I wasn't sure if I would be allowed to.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, I'm actually working for the Post Standard as a reporter. So like,
Okay.
you know, if I have questions, I will reach out. I'm really interested in the list of officers that have multiple cases against them. To my understanding, right, that's not information that is usually provided by the CRB publicly, like what the names of the officers who have multiple reports against them. And so I understand usually that's because of privacy protections for those officers, but would there be any sort of exemption if you're sending this information to the AG for investigation? Would there be any exception to officers who have multiple cases against them for making that information a little bit more public than it is already?
what we've been waiting to do is that, as you know, when 50A was repealed, it's been tied up in court cases from downstate by their police union. So we've been waiting to see what was going to be the outcome of those cases before we were going to start putting anything out there in the atmosphere. One, our current website was not savvy enough to hold that much data. But that was our reason for not giving that information, was because it's been tied up in litigation. Then there was the part where there was an opinion that the releasing of information only had to be those that were sustained. And so now, we have to kind of look at where that lied in the court cases and things of that nature. So that's why you don't see as much information being provided to the CRB, or you having to put that information through the FOIL process. Sorry, it's a motion sensor. You have to put that information through the FOIL process in order to get it, is because they have to review it and to make sure that we're not violating any sort of rules, and making sure they have that information in the background. So that's the reason why we haven't done it, because as soon as New York City did it, New York City CRB, they dropped all this information like up in the cloud with all the officers' names and all the complaints that they received, and then they were immediately sued. So, you know what I mean? So there was a lot of litigation going on. So we didn't want to put anything out there until we knew that we didn't end up being sued, which we then would be, again, costing the city money, for lack of a better terminology that has been thrown at us before. So we didn't want to be hasty and putting that information up there if we were then going to have to try to pull it down, and once it's out there, there's no coming back.
But again, like I'll reach out with more questions. That's the question. Like that's a big takeaway in terms of like future things to look out for. That took away from what I've heard so far.
But just know that we want to be as transparent as possible to the public. That's the reason why we were created. We just want to make sure that no one feels, in terms of even a complainant, feels as if their information is going to be leaked by the CRB. Now, you're just specifically asking about officer information, but we still want to make sure that we don't create a situation where they question our integrity as a department when we've worked so hard to rebuild the opinion of us in the community and with the department. So we're treading lightly while still continuing to do our job, but just know that we understand the frustration that all of these methods create, and we're not trying to do that to the public, but we want to make sure that we safeguard what we're trying to do and or for the good of the public.
I'm also going to assume that everyone has either read or heard that Kristen will no longer be the corporate counsel and that the mayor has appointed a new person.
So that's also,
Just when we got used to working with Kristen.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that he appointed a new corporation counsel.
Just stay tuned
And,
because we will start back those meetings again as we did before, but we're going to try to give her a little time to get acclimated, and then we'll begin squeaking our wheels again like we did before. But we're going to try to just give her a little bit of time to assume the role. And hopefully in March, we will begin to, have our meetings again and get back on track. But I will say that I do believe that the methods that we have in place have been working better than they were before. And I don't think that it would be in anybody's best interest to try to change anything that we have fixed while Kristen has been in office. Because, people are paying attention. It is still sad to say that a situation like George Floyd had to happen for people to really pay attention to oversight and police misconduct, but it is still real and people are continuing to pay attention to it. So we do have leverage, and we intend to use it if necessary, along with trying to get these positions that we need. Because again, as Lori said, we don't want to be an office that's just here for name value to say, oh, we have civilian oversight. We have been trying and working hard for these last 5 years I've been here. 5 years in June. So we don't want to continue to do that for not, you know what I mean? We've been making a lot of progress. So I think we need to continue. And I think they see the need for working with us. I think we've shown that over time, and that as they would say, Cliff would say, we're not a witch hunt. We just want police misconduct to stop.
I would also like Joe to come to those meetings that we
Absolutely.
have with Kristen and Ryan.
Yes. That would be good. So whenever we start to have those, we'll do that. Did you guys go over the committees last meeting, and did everybody agree to still be on the same committee? All right, we'll do
We
that
didn't
next.
go over them, but nobody said I don't want to be on a committee. So
Okay. All right.
we'll circulate the list of committees, Richard, so you can take a look at what we have out there. And
appreciate it.
regarding vacancies, just so you know, yet again, I did speak with the mayor's office, and they were gonna hopefully have a name to us the beginning of next week, which would hopefully get to the council for their March meetings, as well as yet again, I sent, well, I can't really fault the councilors at large. They did two of them just took office in January, and the councilor at large appointments have to be a consensus of the 4 councilors at large. So I had sent an email out to Michael Green and Rita Peniagua before January, letting them know that there was a vacancy. And then after January, I did send another email to them, as well as the 2 new counselors. So hopefully they will get that soon. As you can see, Jen Schultz jumped right on it. She called me right after election day saying, I have somebody in mind, and what do I have to do? And I said, well, you have to wait till you take office. So I think it was like New Year, the day after New Year's, she called me. So she got right on it and appointed Richard. So we're very thankful for her for doing that.
Richard, you got big shoes to fill.
Yeah,
I heard. That makes me a little nervous. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Catch up.
Okay, does anybody have anything else?
If I forgot any motions or anything like that that we need budgetary wise, I know how to call a special meeting. We'll provide adequate notice, but just in case, just look out for those things, just in case I find out that something else needs to be taken care of. But we need to jump right on it so that we can have committees before. We usually go before a budget in sometime in March or April, I think it is. So just look for those things, and I'll get you guys the dates and stuff for public safety meetings and all of that good stuff. So.
And Richard, the city budget runs July 1st to June 30th.
Yep.
Just in case, it's kind of an odd time, so most people don't think of it as that would be the budget time.
I guess I do have one other question.
Okay.
Because yesterday, the council did talk about giving officers Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training in the with the idea that knowing that martial art would reduce the need for other use of force options. I am working on article for next week on that proposal. So if you have any thoughts about that,
Well, I've got thoughts.
Good one.
I think that we have to be careful in all methods of use of force that we train officers to utilize, because you can still already, even if you didn't say it, you could tell when your use of force expert is a jiu-jitsu guy anyways in the tactics that are utilized. So we want to just be careful that even though this is going to be seen as a less lethal force, a less deadly force, we know that use of force is never pretty, no matter how it happens. So we still want them to still utilize any forms of de-escalation that are helpful. We want them to exercise the need to take a moment and step back, you know what I mean, and assess the situation. I just don't want them to just say, oh, well, now I could just use this jiu-jitsu move quicker than I would have used, you know what I mean, a arm bar, or I would have used, my nightstick, or, something of that nature. So, I mean, it still raises alarms for me as to how much now we are going to just still utilize this as more force. It's going to be applied more, because now you're going to say, hey, this is supposed to be less lethal. This is supposed, that kind of thing would just be my concern.
I watched that common council, and it was funny because it was presented in such a way that it was all okay, and that it was less threatening. However, on the good part is I think the common council was hesitant and was not real, like, we're just, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. I think they're carefully considering it, because it's presented in one way. They had some Brazilian jiu-jitsu excerpt, and made it seem, and I think one of the police officers there, and he's also like a black belt, and they were making it seem like this is just the greatest. We don't have to punch anybody in the face anymore. So,
but we still know they'll still punch
that's-
somebody in the face, and sorry, but they will still punch somebody in the face, and
Yeah.
they will still utilize an arm bar. They will still, utilize other methods. And that's the thing. Anybody that was a use of force expert previously and liked martial arts, we already had that happening in the academy. We already had those type of things. So now you're just trying to say, oh, we're going to give it a name. And we're going to say, oh, it's the jiu-jitsu move that we just did, and y'all approved that one, and
yeah, fortunately, I think the common council's not like rushing into there.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it some more, because it's, they're a little skeptical.
I'm hoping. I have a few. There is I'll send you guys an email about a guy who does some training that we looked into having him come in, and he talks about those kind of tactics and things of that nature, and I'll send you guys that information, and you can look at that. And he had already, there's always been concern about martial arts and those forms being utilized in training for the police department anyways. So to now try to put it out there that this is going to help us not punch somebody in the face, I just don't
And they were basing it on some study. There's only like there's no information. They're basing it on some study. You probably heard on Marietta, Georgia, where and it it's really unproven, but
Yeah,
that's
I tried to
that was the
find that
argument.
study. It seems to exist on this site called Invictus. I don't know if that is correct. I would have to ask the councilman if that's the right study. The site that I was on was not. Like, I think like when they emphasized that the peer review study that would go along with this training would be the first in its nation to be peer reviewed, I think they meant that. I don't want to say too much. Again, like before they have obligations to say, like, I'm trying to be as neutral and present information as possible, but I did have to look this up. And when they did this in Marietta, Georgia, there were concerns, which is why I am asking a little bit more questions, because in the Marshall Project report, community reviewers did express concerns. You have expressed concerns. So I'm looking into that to make sure that those concerns make it into here, because those concerns existed in Marietta, Georgia, right?
So I would say that, we would still like to be privy to the training that they're going to utilize to show them how these jujitsu moves should be utilized and when they are going to be utilized. If they can give us a, hypothetical situation, some sort of scenario in which they're going to use this move opposed to punching somebody in the face, or opposed to some other one, I would be interested. And seeing if that makes the civilian academy, or if we are invited as the oversight agency for recommendations for policy and training, if we get to see how that particular training does take place.
I was gonna say, because they're already using jujitsu in the Citizens Academy, because I took their training twice, as you know, and they're already using karate moves in those training classes. They show you the moves and everything. So, and they have to use some of those when they're trying to disarm somebody with a knife or a stick or even a firearm. They have to use the martial arts technique, to disarm someone. And they teach you that. So they're already using it. They're already
Right.
using
So
the
I want to
martial
know
arts.
what is different about this new one from
Yeah.
Marietta, Georgia, that's different than what you was already doing without telling somebody.
Mhm.
Or
Kamikaze had a
calling
lot.
it jujitsu.
Kamikaze had a lot of concerns.
As
Well,
they
I'm
should.
sorry I missed that meeting. Charge it to the baby brain and the COVID brain.
When was it? When was the meeting? Because I'm gonna go on YouTube and look at
Yesterday.
it.
I will go,
Yesterday?
so what we do have the authority to do, I will say to you guys, is that when in fact you do watch something like the Common Council, meeting, and you have issues or you have concerns, we can, as a board, write a letter to the council and express our concerns related to them utilizing this training, them changing a particular policy, them creating legislation. We have that authority. That's why that is why our legislation says that we're able to give policy and training recommendations. So if you have concerns about this, write them down and we can put together a letter from the board explaining our concerns related to this training, any policy that comes out, that kind of thing. We can ask that, this training be provided to the board so that the board can see what tactics they are now using compared to what they were using before. We have that authority. So, do that, and we can, if all else fails, we can send it to Syracuse.com as an editorial piece from the board. I mean, we have ways to get our opinion out there so that it is then a community forum about them utilizing these new methods that will help, facilitate our concern and see if we can get more community involvement as to their opinion as to, maybe people who have had these tactics utilized on them already will, could come forward and talk about them, or even people who have heard about it, or, not them themselves, but, seeing it as a bystander. I mean, there's ways to kind of, make sure that the community perspective is seen, as it sounds that it was, taken into consideration in Georgia. So Thank you for bringing that up, Yufeng. And thank you for watching that, Richard.
I watch them all.
That's good.
A lot to be gained. There's a lot to learn when you watch them.
Yes. Oh,
That was
absolutely.
very timely too. So.
Yes. There is a
Yeah,
lot to
they're
learn.
always interesting, that's for
You
sure.
get to know a lot about the counselors that you elected when you watch these common council meetings. So I encourage you.
I love
to
mine, but it is funny.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Can always count on you. I did, meetings adjourned at 6:24, if you want to stop the recording.
Okay.